Looping thoughts promise safety. Short-term relief and long-term cost often point in opposite directions. Facts that can be checked. Ask whether the thinking is producing a next action or only restarting the same loop. A real-life version is replaying a conversation to find the perfect explanation for one awkward pause. Uncertainty feeds the loop. The mind tries to remove risk by reviewing every possibility. Notice this. Waiting for a reply and imagining three completely different meanings. Separate facts from guesses. Version. Choosing between two jobs and treating each small detail like destiny. Name what can be corrected later. Short-term relief and long-term cost often point in opposite directions. A better environment can make the desired behavior easier to repeat. The behavior makes more sense when the short-term relief and long-term cost are separated. Approval concerns make ordinary interactions feel like evidence in a trial. Example. Wondering whether a short message sounded rude or distant. Ask whether the other person has actually reacted. The mechanism is direct. Overthinking often tries to create certainty by replaying details that cannot fully guarantee an outcome. The clearest sign is wondering whether a short message sounded rude or distant. Perfectionism hides inside analysis. The mind delays action until it can guarantee a flawless result. In practice, editing one email for 40 minutes because any wording could be criticized. Send the good enough version when the stakes are low. The moving part is simple. Overthinking often tries to create certainty by replaying details that cannot fully guarantee an outcome. Past mistakes become templates sets up the whole situation. Old embarrassment teaches the brain to scan for repeats. In practice, someone rejected once reads every delay as the same danger returning. Update the brain with present evidence. The pattern runs like this. Overthinking often tries to create certainty by replaying details that cannot fully guarantee an outcome. Body stress intensifies thinking sets up the whole situation. Poor sleep, hunger, and caffeine can make thoughts feel more urgent. A small work issue becomes enormous after a sleepless night. Check body state before trusting the alarm. The real engine is this. Overthinking often tries to create certainty by replaying details that cannot fully guarantee an outcome. More articles, opinions, and comparisons can expand doubt instead of solving it. Common case. Reading 20 reviews and becoming less sure about a simple purchase. Cap research before choosing. The behavior makes more sense when the short-term relief and long-term cost are separated. This starts with rumination versus problem-solving. Problem-solving changes a step. Rumination circles the same fear. Asking what if for hours without doing the next call or note. Look for movement, not mental noise. Overthinking often begins as protection. The mind keeps searching for certainty when the situation does not offer any. Unclear communication leaves space for anxious interpretation. Picture. A partner says they are tired and the mind builds a breakup story. Clarify gently instead of building a courtroom in your head. The process starts here. Overthinking often tries to create certainty by replaying details that cannot fully guarantee an outcome. The response improves when the underlying cause is no longer mixed with the symptom. Overthinking can become a socially acceptable way to avoid risk. Think of reworking a proposal instead of submitting it for feedback. Use deadlines that force contact with reality. The chain is easy to miss. Overthinking often tries to create certainty by replaying details that cannot fully guarantee an outcome. The example is someone replays one awkward message instead of asking a clear question, and the response is a time limit and one small test. The everyday problem is control has limits. Not every outcome can be solved in advance. Picture. A person plans every sentence of a meeting but cannot control reactions. Prepare values and facts, not every possible response. The core idea is plain. Overthinking often tries to create certainty by replaying details that cannot fully guarantee an outcome. Once awkward messages is visible, the next move can be smaller, calmer, and more accurate. Writing thoughts down can interrupt the loop. Once the worry is on paper, it becomes easier to see whether the mind is solving a real problem or repeating the same fear in different words. Someone may write 5 versions of the same concern, all pointing to one question: what if I regret this later? Turning that loop into 2 columns, actions I can take and unknowns I cannot control, helps reduce the illusion that more thinking will create perfect certainty. Time boxes help explains the first problem. Scheduled thinking prevents worry from spreading across the whole day. Think of giving a decision 20 minutes instead of the entire evening. Contain analysis inside a boundary. The helpful move is to separate what is known, what is guessed, and what action is actually available now. Testing creates information that thinking alone cannot produce. Version. Trying a class once instead of debating for months whether it is right. Replace prediction with low-risk experiments. The main force is clear. Overthinking often tries to create certainty by replaying details that cannot fully guarantee an outcome. Someone replaying one awkward message instead of asking a clear question. Self-kindness lowers threat. Imagine telling yourself you are stupid for worrying adds a second problem. Speak to yourself like someone learning, not failing. The detail creates a practical place to begin. Overthinking often improves when the question becomes smaller. What needs to be known, what needs to be said, and what can be decided with the facts already available. Daily version. A person avoids calls, messages, and tasks because every choice feels unsafe. The idea stops being theoretical once a choice is on the table. The pressure comes from rumination, uncertainty, reassurance, and delayed action. Missing that link makes the outcome look random. The issue becomes concrete when a person avoids calls, messages, and tasks because every choice feels unsafe. The mind often asks for certainty when the real need is courage, clarification, or a short conversation. Overthinking feels productive because the mind is busy, but busyness is not the same as clarity. The way out is to separate useful planning from repeated mental looping. Once the next real action is clear, more thinking can become a delay rather than a solution. The pressure is visible when a calmer mind does not know everything, it knows the next honest step. Overthinking often feels safe because it delays the risk of choosing, asking, apologizing, or moving on. The loop starts to break when the person writes down the actual question, the missing information, and the next action that would reduce uncertainty. Overthinking feels productive because the mind stays busy, but busyness is not the same as progress. A real-life version is someone replays one awkward message instead of asking a clear question. The goal is not to silence every thought. The loop loses energy when the person stops asking for perfect certainty and starts choosing a clear next action. The way out is not to force instant certainty. It is to decide what information is missing, choose the next small action, and stop rewarding rumination as if it were preparation. It is to stop circling the same fear and choose the next piece of evidence, conversation, or action that can actually move the problem forward. If the same thought returns without adding evidence, it is no longer analysis, it has become rehearsal for anxiety.